Have you ever wondered why certain moments seem destined? Why this specific video appeared in your feed at exactly this instant? Among millions of content flooding the internet every second, your eyes landed here. This isn't coincidence, it's alignment. Let me tell you about Ricardo, a 38-year-old engineer who was browsing YouTube on a Tuesday night, procrastinating before sleep. He almost closed the browser 3 times, but something made him click on this type of video. 6 months later, Ricardo had left his corporate job, moved to the countryside, and created a sustainable energy company that today generates $2.3 million per year. Ricardo told me, "I didn't believe in synchronicity. I thought it was New Age nonsense, but now I understand that moment wasn't chance. It was my consciousness guiding me to exactly what I needed to hear." You just passed the first test that 99% of people fail without even knowing it exists. The fact that you're still reading these words means something profound is already moving within your consciousness. Most people would have already clicked away, distracted by the next shiny object, the next dopamine hit, the next easy escape from their reality. But not you. You're different. You sense there's something deeper here, something that could change everything. A fascinating study from Princeton University monitored attention patterns of 50,000 internet users. They discovered that only 3% of people remain focused on transformational content for more than 90 seconds. If you've made it this far, you're already in the top 3% of the population in terms of ability to sustain attention on material that can genuinely change your life. Right now, as you process these words, something extraordinary is happening in your nervous system. Your heart has subtly changed rhythm. Your breathing has deepened without you noticing. And somewhere in the depths of your being, dormant neural pathways are beginning to fire in new patterns. This isn't just motivational content. It's frequency activation, consciousness recalibration, quantum field adjustment happening in real time. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a neuroscientist from Stanford, spent 12 years studying what she calls consciousness activation moments. She discovered that certain combinations of words, concepts, and timing can literally alter the neural structure of the brain within minutes. What we observe, explains Dr. Mitchell, is that when someone encounters information that deeply resonates with their internal truth, the brain immediately begins forming new synaptic connections. It's as if consciousness recognizes something it was waiting to remember. Scientists studying high performance discovered that transformation doesn't begin with massive action, but with subtle changes in consciousness, micro-alterations in how you perceive reality that create cascade effects throughout your entire life experience. Think about how a small change in a ship's rudder can completely alter its final destination. A change of just 1 degree in direction, maintained over time, can mean the difference between reaching your desired destination or being completely lost at sea. Right now, simply by maintaining your attention on these concepts, you're initiating this process. You're about to discover transformative insights about consciousness, behavioral patterns, and destiny that remain hidden from most until they waste decades. But before we continue, I need to warn you about something. What you're about to learn cannot be unlearned. Once you see how reality truly works, how your consciousness shapes your experience, you can no longer pretend you don't know. This comes with responsibility. The responsibility to use this knowledge to create an extraordinary life. Here's something that will shock you, and I'll prove it with an experiment you can do right now. Look around you for 10 seconds and count how many red objects you see. Go ahead, do this now. Now, without looking again, tell me, how many blue objects did you see? Most can't answer because their brain was programmed to see only red. This is exactly what happens with life opportunities. Neuroscientists at Harvard Medical School, in a groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Cognitive Neuroscience, proved that humans ignore 94% of transformational possibilities purely because discomfort triggers their avoidance response. Dr. Lisa Chen, who led the research, discovered something even more disturbing. She monitored the brain activity of 1,200 people while presenting life-changing opportunities. What she found was shocking. The brain rejected opportunities 0.3 seconds before the person even consciously processed what was being offered. Think about this for a moment. Your subconscious mind is literally sabotaging your chances of transformation before you even know they exist. Let me tell you about Anna, a 29-year-old teacher who participated in this study. When researchers showed her professional growth opportunities, her brain automatically rejected them. She didn't even consciously process that she was being offered a chance to change careers. 6 months later, Anna was still complaining that opportunities never appeared for her. She didn't know she had subconsciously rejected 17 different opportunities just on that test day. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Dr. Chen discovered there's a bypass window, a specific way of presenting opportunities that circumvents this automatic defense mechanism. And that's exactly what's happening right now as you watch this video. You pass through the filter, you're in the bypass window. Even more fascinating, your unconscious brain has already mapped your next 5 moves, 6.8 seconds before your consciousness realizes it. Right now, as you process these words, your subconscious has already decided whether you'll finish this message, whether you'll act based on what you learn, whether you'll allow this moment to be the turning point it should be. A study from the University of Berlin, conducted by Dr. John Dylan Haynes, used magnetic resonance scanners to prove that decisions can be predicted up to 10 seconds before the person is aware they decided something. This means that while you think you're consciously deciding whether to continue watching, your subconscious has already made this choice. These aren't theories. They're documented realities actively shaping your existence in this moment. And the question you need to ask is, who's really in control? Your conscious mind or your automatic subconscious patterns? But there's something even more extraordinary happening beneath the surface, something that will challenge everything you thought you knew about reality. Quantum physicists have discovered that consciousness itself collapses probability waves into reality. This isn't New Age philosophy, and it's laboratory-proven science. The famous double-slit experiment, replicated thousands of times in universities around the world, proves unequivocally that the act of observing fundamentally changes the behavior of matter. When no one is observing, particles behave like waves of possibility. The moment someone observes, they choose to become specific particles in specific locations. Dr. Amit Goswami, quantum physicist and professor emeritus at the University of Oregon, spent 30 years studying this connection between consciousness and reality. He discovered that it's not just at the subatomic level that this happens. Your consciousness is constantly collapsing waves of possibility into specific experiences in your daily life. Every moment of focused attention you invest here is literally reshaping the quantum field around you, creating new probability patterns that didn't exist before you arrived. Let me explain this practically. Imagine your life is like a giant radio. There are hundreds of different stations broadcasting simultaneously. Stations of abundance, stations of scarcity, stations of love, stations of fear. Your consciousness is the tuner. Depending on where you focus your attention, you tune into different frequencies of experience. You're not just consuming content, you're actively participating in creating your new reality. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart is 5,000 times stronger than your brain's, and it extends several meters beyond your physical body. The HeartMath Institute in California spent 25 years studying this phenomenon. They discovered that the heart has its own brain, a complex nervous system with more than 40,000 neurons. Right now, as these concepts resonate with something deep within you, your heart's electromagnetic signature is changing, transmitting a new frequency in the quantum field. A frequency that will attract experiences, opportunities, and people aligned with your emerging consciousness. Dr. Roland McCready, HeartMath's research director, explains, when a person is in a state of heart coherence, when the heart, mind, and emotions are in energetic harmony, they literally radiate a frequency that can be detected by other hearts up to 8 meters away. This means your internal transformation doesn't just affect you. It creates waves in the quantum field that influence everyone around you. When you change, the world around you changes in response. That's why certain videos, certain messages, certain moments seem destined. They're not random encounters, they're magnetic attractions created by the intersection of your consciousness with the infinite intelligence of the universe, orchestrating exactly what you need for your next level of evolution. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychologist, spent decades studying what he called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem impossible to explain by conventional logic. Jung discovered that the more a person develops self-awareness, the more synchronicities they experience. Let me tell you about Marcus, a 42-year-old lawyer going through a deep existential crisis. For months, he had been questioning whether he should leave his lucrative but unsatisfying career to follow his passion for music. On a Thursday morning, walking to work, Marcus found an abandoned guitar on the sidewalk. That same day, a client canceled an important meeting, giving him an unexpected free afternoon. That afternoon, he passed by a music store and saw an advertisement for guitar lessons, exactly at the time that had become free. 3 synchronicities in one day, Marcus told me. It was like the universe was screaming for me to pay attention. 6 months later, Marcus had left law and was making a living as a professional musician. But here's where it becomes truly extraordinary. The very fact that you're here at this moment reading these words means your unconscious mind has already chosen transformation. Your higher self guided you here. Your soul recognized something in this message that desperately needed to hear. This is your consciousness calling to itself, creating the exact circumstances necessary for your awakening. Dr. Deepak Chopra, who has studied synchronicity for over 40 years, explains, synchronicities are messages from the universe. They appear when we're aligned with our highest purpose. The more we pay attention to them, the more they appear. This experience transcends typical content consumption. You're not here to passively absorb information. You're here to actively transform, to genuinely feel deeper, to authentically evolve. And here's something that will surprise you. From the moment you finish watching this video, synchronicities will begin appearing in your life with increasing frequency. You'll notice coincidences that previously went unnoticed. Conversations that happen at the exact moment you need to hear them. Opportunities that appear just when you're ready for them. This isn't imagination. It's how expanded consciousness works. When you raise your frequency, you become magnetic to experiences that match this new frequency. Before we explore the metamorphosis you're seeking, we need to confront this precise instant. Because right now, recognizing it or not, you're positioned at a crucial junction, and existence continues flowing regardless of your preparation. Time doesn't wait for anyone. It doesn't care about your fears, your excuses, or your reasons for delay. It simply advances, carrying you along. Whether you're consciously directing your life or letting it drift aimlessly. Let me share a statistic that will shock you. The average American spends 2.5 hours daily on social media. That equals 912 hours per year, more than 22 work weeks. In 50 years, this represents 6 entire years of a person's life. Now imagine if just 10% of that time was invested in conscious personal growth. That would be 91 hours per year of focused transformation. In a decade, that would equal almost 1,000 hours of intensive personal development. In this exact second, you're creating choices, some microscopic, others monumental. Still, each one propels you toward a specific destination. One direction guides you toward expansion, courage, and manifestation of the highest version of yourself you've always envisioned. This path is illuminated by courage, marked by growth and paved with the kind of experiences that make life truly worth living. It's the path of the hero's journey, the path of those who refuse to settle for mediocrity, who demand more from themselves and from life itself. The alternative route leads to stagnation, justifications, and silent disappointment. This is the path of least resistance, the comfortable prison that so many people mistake for security. It's lined with ghosts of unlived dreams, echoes of what if, and the bitter taste of regret that grows stronger with each passing year. Dr. Bronnie Ware, an Australian nurse who spent years caring for people in their final days, documented the 5 most common regrets of dying people. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. She observed, this was the most common regret of all. When people realize their life is almost over and look back clearly, it's easy to see how many dreams went unfulfilled. Most people hadn't honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing this was due to choices they made or didn't make. Here's an undeniable reality. Your destiny doesn't begin next decade. It doesn't activate when you finally possess all the answers. When you feel completely prepared, when the stars align perfectly, or when someone gives you permission to start. It ignites immediately, in this exact moment, with the next choice you make. Let me tell you about 2 twin brothers, Pedro and Paulo, both 35 years old. Both had the same education, the same opportunities, the same initial circumstances. 5 years ago, both had the same idea for an online business. Pedro said, I'll start when I have more money saved, when I learn more about digital marketing, when the moment is perfect. Paulo said, I'll start today with what I have and learn along the way. Today, 5 years later, Pedro is still preparing, still taking courses, still waiting for the perfect moment, still saving money. Paulo, on the other hand, built a 7-figure business, employs 23 people, and travels the world while working. The difference? A single decision. One moment of choice between infinite preparation and imperfect action. Every time you choose to delay growth, consume content without purpose, or convince yourself that I'll start tomorrow, you're selecting a trajectory. This selection is architecting your reality brick by brick, decision by decision. Most people don't realize they're building their own prison until they find themselves trapped inside it, wondering how they got there. The tragedy is that tomorrow never comes. There's always another reason to wait, another excuse to delay, another perfect moment just around the corner. But perfection is the enemy of progress, and waiting for ideal conditions is just another form of procrastination dressed in clothes that sound reasonable. This is what researchers call the preparation paradox. The more time people spend preparing to act, the less likely it becomes that they'll actually take action. Your brain tricks you into believing that more preparation equals greater probability of success. But studies show the opposite. A Columbia University study followed 10,000 people for 10 years. Those who acted with 70% certainty consistently outperformed those who waited for 90% certainty. Why? Because when they reached 90% certainty, the opportunity had often already passed. The universe operates on momentum, not perfection. It rewards movement, not preparation. Every day you delay is a day of compound interest working against you instead of for you. If you saved $1 today and doubled it every day, in just 30 days, you'd have more than $1 billion. But if you waited 10 days to start, you'd have less than $1 million. The cost of delay isn't linear, it's exponential. Countless individuals declare, I'll start when I feel prepared. They're waiting for confidence to arrive like a delivery package, motivation to strike like lightning, the perfect plan to download into their minds fully formed. But allow me to reveal an uncomfortable truth that changed my life and the lives of thousands of people I've mentored. no human ever feels completely prepared. Not you. Not anyone who has ever achieved greatness. Let me tell you about Oprah Winfrey. When she was offered her first opportunity to host a national talk show, she only had local experience and was terrified. "I didn't feel even slightly prepared," she revealed years later, "but I understood that if I waited to feel prepared, I'd never do anything." Steve Jobs, when he decided to create Apple, had no business management experience, no MBA, no significant capital. He had a garage and a vision. "If we had waited until we felt prepared," he said, "we'd still be waiting." The most successful people in history were terrified when they took their first steps. They felt unprepared, uncertain, and completely out of their comfort zone. The only difference between them and those who never realized their dreams is that they felt the fear and moved forward anyway. They understood that readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. Dr. Susan Jeffers, psychologist and author of Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, studied more than 5,000 people over 20 years. She discovered that those who achieved extraordinary success had one characteristic in common. They developed the ability to act despite fear, not in its absence. "Fear never goes away as long as you continue growing," explains Dr. Jeffers. "The only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go out and do it. The secret is to feel the fear and do it anyway." Evolution is chaotic. It's disruptive. It requires abandoning familiar territories even when they've become prisons. Growth requires you to leave behind the version of yourself that brought you to where you are now, because that version is incapable of taking you where you want to go. You must die to who you were to become who you're destined to be. This process is never comfortable. Your ego will resist with everything it has. It will create elaborate stories about why you should wait, why you're not ready, why you need more time, more knowledge, more resources. But these are just stories, convincing fiction designed to keep you exactly where you are. In this instant, your mind is calculating. Should I invest my attention here, or should I escape to easier distractions? Should I lean into this discomfort and see where it leads? Or should I retreat to the familiar comfort of purposeless scrolling, infinite entertainment, and numbing routines? This seemingly insignificant choice represents the exact dividing line between those who dream and those who manifest. It's the fork in the road that determines whether you'll look back on this moment as the beginning of your transformation, or just another piece of content you consumed and forgot. Let me share something few people know. There's a specific moment in every transformation journey that determines whether the person will succeed or fail. It's not the moment of initial decision. It's not when they take the first action. It's the moment I call the point of maximum resistance. This point usually arrives between 3 to 7 days after the initial decision to change. It's when the novelty wears off, when initial motivation diminishes, when the reality of change becomes clear. It's at this moment that 87% of people give up. Maria, a 31-year-old graphic designer, decided to start her own studio. For the first 2 days, she was euphoric. On the 3rd day, she began questioning. On the 5th day, she was paralyzed by fear. "Maybe I should wait another year," she thought. "Maybe I need more experience." Fortunately, Maria had learned about the point of maximum resistance. She recognized this was normal, expected, and actually a sign she was on the right track. Instead of retreating, she pushed through the resistance. Today, 3 years later, her studio generates $800,000 per year. You don't require cosmic permission. You don't need a sign from the universe. Though ironically, your presence here now is exactly that. You don't need external salvation, a guru to follow, or someone to validate your dreams and aspirations. All that's necessary is releasing the illusion of the perfect moment, because ideal conditions are mythical. The perfect moment is a fairy tale told by those who are too afraid to begin. It's a comfortable lie that keeps people trapped in perpetual preparation, infinite planning, and constant waiting. But while they're waiting for the perfect moment, others are taking imperfect action and creating the life they desire. Only this moment exists, and this moment contains infinite potential. Right now, in this instant, you have access to more possibilities than you could explore in 1,000 lifetimes. The universe is pregnant with opportunities, synchronicities, and miracles waiting to unfold. But they require your participation, your decision, your commitment to enter the unknown. Most humans remain trapped in yesterday's regrets or paralyzed by tomorrow's uncertainties. Yet the singular space where authentic transformation occurs is right here, right now. The past is gone. It exists only in your memory and has no power over you except what you give it. The future isn't written. It's a blank canvas waiting for you to paint your masterpiece upon it. Before we examine the aspirations you've been postponing, we must acknowledge that internal narrator. You recognize it. The voice whispering, "You don't have the capacity. Failure is inevitable. You are fundamentally insufficient." This commentary has been operating for years, perhaps decades, shaping your decisions, your self-confidence, and your trajectory through life. This voice has been your constant companion, your internal critic, your self-proclaimed protector that protects you by limiting you. It speaks in your own voice, uses your own reasoning, and presents itself as logic and common sense. But it's neither logical nor sensible. It's fear masquerading as wisdom. Dr. Rick Hanson, neuropsychologist and author of Buddha's Brain, explains that our brain evolved with what he calls negativity bias. Our ancestors who survived were those who paid more attention to threats than opportunities. Our brain is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive experiences, he explains. However, here's what remains invisible to most. This voice spreads deception. It may echo with your tone, sound like your thoughts, and seem like your authentic perspective, but it originates elsewhere. It's built from anxiety, previous disappointments, and cruel words absorbed when you were too inexperienced to reject them. It's constructed from others' expectations, social conditioning, and the accumulated weight of 1,000 small discouragements. Every time someone told you to be realistic, every time you tried something and failed, every time you were ridiculed, criticized, or dismissed, these experiences became the building blocks of that internal voice. Let me tell you about Roberto, a 44-year-old accountant who had dreamed of being a writer since age 12. For 32 years, he carried the voice of his high school Portuguese teacher, who had said, "Roberto, you have many ideas, but you don't have talent for writing. Focus on something more practical." For 3 decades, whenever Roberto sat down to write, that voice appeared. "You have no talent. Who do you think you are? Nobody will want to read what you write." Roberto believed this voice until age 44, when he finally decided to challenge it. He began writing 500 words per day, regardless of quality. 6 months later, he had finished his first novel. A year later, it was published. 2 years later, it was on the bestseller list. The voice that limited him for 32 years was completely wrong. The longer you grant authority to it, the deeper its control penetrates. It becomes the lens through which you see every opportunity, the filter that processes every possibility, the gatekeeper that determines which dreams are realistic and which are impossible. But this voice doesn't know the future better than you. It only knows the past and assumes tomorrow will be exactly like yesterday. You've certainly experienced moments when inspiration struck, when you considered taking courageous action, embracing vulnerability, expressing suppressed thoughts, or pursuing long-cherished dreams. These moments of clarity arrive like lightning, illuminating possibilities you never considered, showing glimpses of who you could become and what you could achieve. But milliseconds before movement, that voice materialized. Not shouting, not dramatic, just persistent enough to create hesitation. It whispered concerns that sound reasonable. What if you fail? What will people think? You don't have enough experience. You're not qualified. You don't have the resources. The timing isn't right. Within that pause, within that moment of hesitation, potential dies. Dreams suffocate. Possibilities evaporate. The window of opportunity closes. And you convince yourself it was never really there. This is how most people's lives unfold. Not through dramatic failures or catastrophic setbacks, but through small moments of hesitation, small compromises, and silent surrenders. Mel Robbins, author of The 5-Second Rule, discovered something revolutionary through her own personal experience. She was going through deep depression, unemployed, with serious financial problems. One morning, watching a rocket commercial on TV, she had an idea. What if I launched myself out of bed like a rocket? The next morning, when the alarm rang and her mind began with the usual excuses, she counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and launched herself out of bed before her mind could sabotage her. This simple action completely changed her life. Neuroscientists call this the 5-second rule. You have exactly 5 seconds from the moment of impulse to take action before your brain kicks in with all its protective mechanisms, all its reasonable doubts, all its fear-based logic. Within those 5 seconds lies the difference between the life you're living and the life you could be living. The most successful people learn to recognize these 5-second windows and act within them. They don't wait for the feeling to pass or the fear to diminish. They count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move. This simple technique has launched businesses, created relationships, generated innovations, and transformed countless lives. But here's what most people don't understand. This 5-second window isn't just about external action. It's about internal commitment. It's about making a decision in your mind before your mind has time to convince you otherwise. It's about choosing your future self over your current comfort, your potential over your patterns, your dreams over your doubts. Every breakthrough begins with a micro-decision made in a moment of clarity before the fog of fear rolls back in. Before we discuss achievement or transformation, understand this fundamental principle. Anxiety will always disguise itself as logic. Fear is incredibly intelligent. It doesn't present itself as irrational terror. Instead, it dresses up as common sense, practical thinking, and mature responsibility. It whispers seductive phrases like, "Be practical. The timing is wrong. Wait until confidence arrives. You need more preparation." Let's be realistic here. These arguments sound so reasonable, so mature, so sensible, that most people accept them without question. But here's the truth that successful people understand. These logical arguments are just fear wearing a suit. It's anxiety presenting itself as wisdom, limitation disguised as prudence. Let me tell you about 3 people who applied the 5-second rule at crucial moments in their lives. Case 1. Sandra, entrepreneur. Sandra worked 15 years at a multinational company. Every morning, on her way to work, she passed by a small empty store and imagined opening her own boutique. For 3 years, she had this same fantasy. One day, she saw a "for rent" sign on the store. Her first impulse was to stop and get the phone number, but then the voice appeared. "You have no retail experience. What if it goes wrong? You have a family to support." She almost kept driving, but then she remembered the 5-second rule. She counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stopped the car. She called the number. 6 months later, she opened her boutique. Today, 4 years later, she has 3 stores and generates $2.1 million per year. Case 2. Fernando, writer. Fernando always wanted to write a book. For 8 years, he said, "Someday I'll write." On a Tuesday night, watching TV, he had a sudden impulse to go to the computer and start writing. Immediately, his mind began, "You're tired. Tomorrow you'll write. You don't even know what to write about." Fernando applied the rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and went to the computer. He wrote 500 words that night. He continued writing 500 words per day. 10 months later, he had finished his first novel. Today, he's a published author with 3 books on the market. Case 3. Carla, relationships. Carla had been single for 5 years. She saw an interesting man at the cafe every morning, but never had the courage to talk to him. For 6 months, she created excuses. He must be busy. Maybe he has a girlfriend. What if he rejects me? One morning, she decided to apply the 5-second rule. When she saw him in line, she counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and approached. "Hi, I see you here every morning. What's your favorite coffee?" They talked for 10 minutes. They scheduled a date. Today, 2 years later, they're engaged. However, those who succeed never wait for confidence. They recognize fear and move forward despite it. They understand that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and acting anyway. They know that confidence doesn't create action. Action creates confidence. Dr. Amy Cuddy, Harvard social psychologist, proved through her research that fake it till you make it really works. When you act with confidence, even without feeling confident, your brain and body begin producing the hormones and neurotransmitters associated with real confidence. Our bodies change our minds, explains Dr. Cuddy. When we assume power postures for just 2 minutes, our testosterone levels rise 19% and our cortisol levels, stress hormone, drop 25%. This not only makes us feel more powerful, but makes us more likely to take risks and perform better. Consider the greatest innovations in human history: the light bulb, the airplane, the internet, the smartphone. None were created by people who felt completely prepared. Thomas Edison failed more than 1,000 times before creating a working light bulb. When a reporter asked how he felt about having failed so many times, Edison replied, "I haven't failed 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that don't work." The Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics with a dream. They had no training in aeronautical engineering, no government funding, no team of scientists. They had curiosity, determination, and willingness to experiment. Steve Jobs was a college dropout working in a garage. When he and Steve Wozniak created Apple, Jobs was 21 years old with no business management experience. "If we had waited until we felt qualified," Jobs said years later, "we never would have started." Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook in his dorm room at age 19. He had no business plan, no management experience, didn't know he was creating what would become one of the world's most valuable companies. He just wanted to solve a simple problem: connecting college students. What separated these individuals from the millions of others who had similar ideas wasn't superior preparation. It was superior willingness to act despite uncertainty. They understood that the path reveals itself to those who begin walking, not to those who stay at the starting line analyzing every possible route. This is the paradox of mastery. You can't learn to ride a bicycle by reading about it. You can't learn to swim by studying technique. And you can't learn to succeed by preparing infinitely. These skills, like all meaningful skills, are learned through practice, through trial and error, through the messy process of doing something poorly until you learn to do it well. The educational system conditioned us to believe that learning comes before doing, that knowledge precedes action, that we must understand everything before trying anything. But this approach works for academic subjects, not for life transformation. In the real world, doing comes before learning. Action precedes understanding, and clarity emerges through engagement, not contemplation. You currently possess everything necessary to begin in this second. Not when wealth increases, not when intelligence expands, not when preparation seems complete, not when other people believe in you, not when the economy improves, not when the perfect opportunity presents itself. You are enough exactly as you are right now in this moment. That voice suggesting otherwise is outdated programming. It's running on old software that's no longer relevant to your current reality. You can choose to ignore it, override it, thank it for trying to protect you, and then act despite its protests. The most successful people in the world didn't succeed because they had fewer fears or fewer doubts. They succeeded because they developed a different relationship with their fears and doubts. Instead of seeing them as stop signs, they learned to see them as road signs, indicators that they were going in the right direction, evidence that they were pushing beyond their comfort zone into the realm of growth and possibility. Let me tell you about Elena, a Venezuelan immigrant who arrived in Brazil in 2018 with $200 in her pocket without speaking Portuguese fluently, without knowing anyone. She had an engineering background, but her diplomas weren't recognized here. Elena could have used this as an excuse. I don't speak the language well. I have no money. I don't know anyone. I don't have a recognized diploma. Instead, she focused on what she had: intelligence, determination, willingness to work hard and learn. She started selling arepas on the street. She used the money to take a Portuguese course, then a digital marketing course. She created a YouTube channel teaching Venezuelan recipes. In 2 years, she had 500,000 followers. Today, she has a catering company that generates $150,000 per month and employs 12 people. I could have focused on everything I didn't have, Elena told me, but I decided to focus on everything I had. And I discovered I had much more than I thought. A dormant version of you awaits activation. A version that appears during adversity. A version that never surrenders. A version that rejects mediocrity and demands excellence from life. This version of you already exists. It's not something you need to create or develop or deserve. It's something you need to remember, reconnect with, allow to emerge. This version only emerges when you stop restricting your authentic power. When you stop diminishing yourself to make others comfortable. When you stop apologizing for your dreams and start pursuing them with relentless determination. It appears when you realize that the greatest risk is taking no risk at all. Within your being pulses an energy that transcends measurement. Success isn't about superior intelligence, lightning speed, or exceptional gifts. It's about choosing persistence when every force suggests surrender. This caliber of power is extraordinary, yet it's genuinely yours. If this content is resonating with you, leave a comment with the word activated to show me you're ready to awaken this dormant version of yourself. You've already survived experiences designed to destroy you. Think about the challenges you've faced, the losses you've endured, the disappointments that seemed like they would crush you. You're still here, still standing, still capable of dreaming, hoping, believing in a better future. You've already endured days that seemed impossible to navigate, days when you didn't know how you'd get through, when the weight of your circumstances seemed unbearable, when giving up seemed the only rational option. Yet here you are, still breathing, still fighting, still searching for something better. This isn't fragility. It's unbreakable strength. This isn't weakness. It's evidence of your incredible resilience. You've survived 100% of your worst days so far. You have an undefeated record when it comes to getting through difficult times. This isn't luck. It's power. Let me tell you about Miguel, a 52-year-old man who lost everything in a financial crisis. His company went bankrupt, he lost his house, his wife asked for divorce, and he found himself living in a rented room at 50, feeling like a complete failure. I looked in the mirror and saw a loser, Miguel told me. I thought my life was over, that it was too late to start again. But then he did something that changed everything. Instead of focusing on what he had lost, he began making a list of everything he had survived. I survived my father's death at 12. I survived failing college. I survived 3 layoffs. I survived deep depression in my 30s. I survived the failure of 2 previous businesses. The list had 23 items. When I finished the list, Miguel continued, I realized I wasn't a failure. I was a survivor. I was someone who had faced adversity multiple times and always found a way to get back up. Today, 5 years later, Miguel has a thriving consultancy, reconciled with his ex-wife, and says that moment of losing everything was actually the moment he found his true power. Those who rise don't always carry perfect strategies. They simply refuse defeat. They don't have all the answers. They don't see the entire staircase. They don't know exactly how things will work out. But they have something more valuable than perfect plans. They have unshakable determination. They trust their internal power more than external chaos. While others wait for circumstances to improve, for perfect conditions for other people to change. Successful people work with what they have, where they are, with what's available to them right now. Dr. Angela Duckworth, psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, spent years studying what she calls grit, a combination of passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Her research with thousands of people, from West Point cadets to National Spelling Bee participants, revealed something surprising. Grit is a better predictor of success than talent, IQ, or any other traditional measure, explains Dr. Duckworth. People with grit don't give up. They see setbacks as temporary, specific, and surmountable. When you adopt this mindset, everything transforms. You stop seeking permission from others and start granting it to yourself. You stop wanting validation from the world and start validating your own dreams and aspirations. You realize the key was always in your possession. You just needed to remember where you put it. The key is your decision-making power. Every day you make hundreds of decisions, most unconsciously. But within those decisions lies the power to reshape your entire reality. You can decide to think differently, feel differently, act differently. You can decide to see opportunities instead of obstacles, possibilities instead of problems, solutions instead of setbacks. Beyond these obvious assets is something much more powerful. Your unique combination of experiences, perspectives, and insights that no one else in human history has ever possessed or ever will possess. Your exact combination of strengths, struggles, victories, and defeats has created a lens through which you see the world that is absolutely unique. This isn't just motivational rhetoric. It's mathematical fact. With more than 8 billion people on this planet, each with their own complex history of experiences, the probability that any other person has walked your exact path, learned your exact lessons, and developed your exact insights is virtually zero. You are literally one in billions. Not because you're special in some mystical sense, but because the convergence of circumstances that created you is statistically impossible to replicate. This means you have perspectives to offer that no one else can provide. You have solutions to problems that others can't see. You have connections to make, innovations to create, and contributions to offer that are uniquely yours. Let me tell you about Raquel, a 36-year-old accountant who always considered herself ordinary. She worked at an average company, had an average life, saw herself as just another face in the crowd. Until one day, in a work meeting, she made a simple observation about how to improve a financial process. That simple observation saved the company $500,000 per year. But it wasn't just that. Raquel's unique perspective, formed by years of seeing patterns in numbers, combined with her experience growing up in a family of small business owners, gave her insights that none of the other accountants had. I always thought I had nothing special to offer, Raquel told me, but I realized that my normalcy was actually my uniqueness. No one else had exactly my combination of experiences. Today, Raquel has her own financial consultancy for small businesses, using exactly that unique perspective she thought was ordinary. The world isn't just waiting for your contribution. It needs your contribution to be complete. Yet most people live as if they were interchangeable, as if their dreams didn't matter, as if someone else would surely come along and do what they were meant to do. But that's not how the universe works. If you don't fulfill your purpose, it remains unfulfilled. If you don't share your gifts, they remain unshared. If you don't pursue your dreams, they remain just dreams. This isn't pressure, it's invitation. The universe isn't demanding perfection from you. It's inviting authenticity. It's not asking you to be flawless, it's asking you to be real. It's not requiring you to have all the answers. It's requesting that you ask better questions. Dr. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and founder of logotherapy, spent his life studying what gives meaning to human existence. His conclusion, based on both extreme personal experience and decades of psychological research, was profound. Each person has a specific vocation or mission in life to fulfill a concrete task that demands fulfillment. In this, they cannot be replaced, nor can their life be repeated. Thus, each person's task is as unique as their specific opportunity to implement it. Decisive action. Everything we've discussed up to this point is just theory, just concepts, just possibilities floating in the realm of ideas. But ideas without action are just daydreams. Knowledge without application is just entertainment. Right now, a critical decision awaits. You absorbed this message for a specific reason. Your consciousness guided you here because some part of you knew you needed to hear these words, be reminded of these truths, be called back to your authentic power. Now comes the crucial part, translating insight into movement. This is where most people fail. They get inspired, they feel motivated, they see the possibilities clearly, and then they do nothing. They return to their old routines, their familiar patterns, their comfortable limitations. But you're different. You wouldn't have made it this far in this message if you were like most people. You have something they don't have. A willingness to face uncomfortable truths, to sit with difficult realities, to consider the possibility that you're capable of much more than you've experienced. Take that initial step today, regardless of its size, regardless of its imperfection. The step doesn't need to be huge. It just needs to be real. It could be making a call you've been avoiding, having a conversation you've postponed, signing up for something you've been considering, or simply committing to a new daily practice that aligns with your vision. Let me tell you about 3 people who took decisive action after moments of clarity similar to what you're experiencing now. Case 1. Andre, the chronic procrastinator. Andre watched a video like this on a Friday night. For years, he had talked about learning guitar, but always found excuses. That night, instead of just feeling inspired and doing nothing, he applied the 5-second rule. He counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bought a guitar online. It arrived on Monday. Today, 2 years later, Andre plays in a local band and says those 5 seconds of courage changed his entire life. Case 2. Lucia, the silent dreamer. Lucia always wanted to write a blog about motherhood, but convinced herself that no one would care about her opinions. After watching transformational content, she decided to act. She wrote her first post that same night and published it the next day. Her blog now has 100,000 monthly followers, and she monetized her passion, earning $15,000 per month with partnerships and digital products. Case 3. Carlos, the dissatisfied employee. Carlos had hated his job for 5 years, but was afraid to leave. After a moment of clarity, he decided he could no longer live like this. Instead of quitting impulsively, he created a plan. He would save for 6 months while developing a new skill in his spare time. He did it. Today, he has his own digital marketing agency and earns 3 times more than at his previous job. The only moment with real power is now. Yesterday is gone. You can't change it. You can't go back. You can't undo what was done or do what wasn't done. Tomorrow isn't here yet. It's a blank canvas waiting for you to paint on it. A story waiting for you to write it. A future waiting for you to create it. But today, right now, in this moment, you have access to infinite possibility. You can make a different choice. You can take a different action. You can take a step in a different direction. The power to change your entire trajectory exists in this singular moment. Your future self depends on today's actions. Imagine yourself 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now. What do you want that person to thank you for? What actions do you want them to look back on as the turning point, the moment when everything changed? The person you'll become in 6 months, 12 months, or 5 years will be grateful for the courage you showed today. They'll thank you for feeling the fear and acting anyway, for pushing through resistance, for refusing to settle for less than you deserve. But imagine for a moment the alternative timeline, the version of your future self that looks back with regret instead of gratitude. This version of you didn't take action today. Let fear win. Chose comfort over growth, certainty over possibility, the familiar path over the transformational journey. This future self sits in the same circumstances you're in now, perhaps slightly worse due to the accumulated effects of inaction. They're filled with what-if scenarios, haunted by missed opportunities, unpursued dreams, unspoken words, unused chances. They look back to this exact moment, right now as you're reading these words, as the turning point they wish they had seized. They remember feeling the same stirring in their soul, the same recognition of truth, the same sense of possibility you're feeling now. They remember hesitating, overthinking, convincing themselves they needed more time, more preparation, more certainty. They remember choosing to wait and remember how that waiting turned into weeks, then months, then years of the same patterns, the same limitations, the same unrealized potential. Let me tell you about 2 men who had the same moment of clarity but made different choices. João and Pedro, a tale of 2 choices. João and Pedro were childhood friends. Both watched the same transformational video on a Tuesday in March. Both felt the same inspiration, the same clarity about what they needed to do. João wanted to leave his corporate job and open a music school. Pedro wanted to start a YouTube channel about cooking. Both had similar fears, similar doubts, similar circumstances. João applied the 5-second rule. That same night, he wrote a basic business plan. The following week, he visited 3 possible locations. In a month, he had rented a space. In 6 months, he opened his school. Today, 3 years later, he has 200 students and generates $80,000 per month. Pedro hesitated. "I'll start next week," he said. "I need to research more about equipment. I need to learn more about editing. I need to be sure it will work." Next week became next month. Next month became next year. Today, 3 years later, Pedro is still preparing and still hates his job. The difference between them: a single decision, one moment of choice between imperfect action and infinite preparation. This isn't to create fear. It's to create urgency, not the frantic urgency of desperation, but the focused urgency of someone who understands that time is the most precious resource we have, and that every moment of delay is a moment that can never be recovered. Your future self isn't just a hypothetical concept, it's a reality waiting to be actualized. Every choice you make today is a vote for which version of your future self you want to become. Every action you take or don't take is shaping the person you'll be and the life you'll live. But they will also live with the consequences of your inaction, your delays, your excuses. Every day you wait is a day they'll never get back. Every opportunity you let pass is an opportunity they'll never have. Every dream you postpone is a dream they may never see realized. Stop looking for external validation. You've been seeking permission from others, waiting for someone to tell you that your dreams are valid, that your goals are achievable, that you deserve success and happiness. But that permission will never come from outside. It can only come from within. This is it. This is your confirmation. Not from the universe, not from destiny, not from some cosmic force, but from your own inner knowing, your own deep wisdom, your own authentic self. You know what you need to do. You've always known. The life you desire begins with a decision. It begins by transcending doubt, dismissing fear, and executing what your soul knows to be your true calling. It begins with the courage to act despite uncertainty, to move forward despite imperfection, to start despite feeling unprepared. Let me tell you about Maria, a 45-year-old woman who spent 20 years waiting for external validation. She wanted to open an alternative therapy center, but always found someone to discourage her. My mother said it was too risky. My husband said we didn't have money. My friend said the market was saturated. For 20 years, I listened to everyone except my own inner voice, Maria told me. At 45, Maria finally realized something fundamental. I was giving other people the power to decide my destiny. People who didn't even have the dreams I had, who didn't even understand my vision. She stopped asking for permission and started acting. Today, 2 years later, her therapy center has a 3-month waiting list, and she generates $45,000 per month doing what she loves. The validation I was looking for out there was in here all along, she reflects. I just needed to stop looking and start listening. Remember this, life transformation never comes from waiting. It emerges from taking that first step, however small it may seem. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that step is available to you right now. You don't need to see the whole staircase, you just need to take the first step. Action creates clarity, movement generates momentum, progress builds confidence. You don't need to have everything figured out before you start. You figure it out along the way. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. You discover the path by walking. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive truth about success. Clarity comes through action, not before it. Most people wait for clarity before acting. But successful people act to arrive at clarity. They understand that the path illuminates one step at a time, not all at once. Think of it like driving at night with headlights. You can only see about 200 feet ahead, but that's enough to make the entire journey safely. You don't need to see the destination from the starting point. You just need to see the next 200 feet, then the next 200 feet, then the next. Life works the same way. You don't need to see your entire future clearly. You just need to see the next step clearly enough to take it. And once you take that step, the next step becomes visible. The universe has an interesting way of supporting those who support themselves. When you take action despite uncertainty, when you move forward despite incomplete information, when you trust the process despite not seeing the whole picture, resources appear that weren't visible before. Opportunities emerge that didn't exist until you created the conditions for them. People show up to help in ways you couldn't have predicted or planned. This isn't magic. It's how complex systems work. When you change your actions, you change your position in the web of relationships, opportunities, and possibilities that surround you. You become visible to people and opportunities that couldn't see you before. You create new intersections, new connections, new possibilities for synchronicity and serendipity. Let me tell you about Roberto, a 38-year-old engineer who decided to leave his corporate career to become a life coach. He had no coaching experience, no clients, no formal credentials. But he had a genuine passion for helping people and an intuition that this was his path. In the first 3 months, Roberto struggled. He took some online courses, created a basic website, but couldn't get clients. He was almost giving up when something interesting happened. In a bank line, he heard a woman talking on the phone about going through a personal crisis. Without thinking much, Roberto gently approached and offered help. They talked for 20 minutes right there in line. That woman became his first client. She recommended him to 2 friends. One of those friends worked at a company that was looking for a corporate coach. Roberto got his first big contract. "I didn't plan that meeting at the bank," Roberto told me. "But when I started acting aligned with my purpose, the universe began conspiring in my favor. Opportunities appeared in places I never would have imagined." Today, 3 years later, Roberto has a thriving coaching practice, has written 2 books, and speaks at international conferences. Today you can forge a new path, a path leading directly to the life you've always envisioned. This path isn't easy. If it were, everyone would be on it. It requires courage, determination, persistence, and faith. But it's available to you and you're capable of walking it. When you adopt this mindset, everything transforms. You stop seeking permission from others and start granting it to yourself. You stop wanting validation from the world and start validating your own dreams and aspirations. You realize the key was always in your possession. You just needed to remember where you put it. Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, "When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." This isn't just beautiful philosophy. It's quantum physics applied to daily life. When you change your internal perspective, when you change your vibrational frequency, when you change your expectations and beliefs, the external world reorganizes itself to match this new internal frequency. It's not that the world objectively changes. It's that you become capable of perceiving and attracting aspects of the world that were always there, but were invisible to your previous frequency. You were meant to witness this message. This isn't random chance or algorithmic coincidence. It's synchronicity in action. Consciousness calling to consciousness. Your higher self delivering exactly what you need, exactly when you need it most. Now go become who you were meant to be. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, but now. The world is waiting for your unique contribution, your special gifts, your authentic expression. You have something to offer that no one else can provide, something that only you can bring to the table. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Your transformation begins with the next choice you make. Choose wisely. Choose courageously. Choose authentically. Choose now. Leave a comment below sharing what is the one action you will take today, no matter how small, to start building the life you truly desire. Your courage could inspire someone else's transformation. And if this video resonated deeply with you, if you feel you were meant to find it, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. When you spread transformational consciousness, you create energetic waves that accelerate both your manifestation and theirs through expanded collective consciousness. Since you've awakened to these truths about consciousness and reality creation, you need to understand how synchronicities will now begin appearing everywhere in your life. Watch the 5 synchronicities you'll only notice after awakening to discover the specific signs that confirm your transformation is already beginning. Remember, you didn't find this video by chance. This video found you. Your new reality is waiting. The awakening begins now.